Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So if you've been watching lately, you know I've been really into knitting, but I am starting to get some pain in my wrist and my tendons right here, so I thought I would take a break for a week or two and sort of get back into bra sewing. It felt very weird because obviously I haven't sewn bras in about 3 months at this point, but I found a project that I am excited to work on, so I think that's the first step. And then I started pulling together all of the different materials that I think I'm going to need. So what I'm wanting to do today is a sort of like fantasy bustier. It's not going to be something that has any practical use, just something that I want to make. And the base of it is just going to be like a sheer white bustier. So I have this white sheer cup lining that I'm going to use. It's undyed, just plain, and then of course, you know, like white power net. I'm going to go ahead and put some foam in the cups itself just for a little bit of modesty. I've done this before when I've done white sheer things, just because it gives you that modesty and it doesn't show up too much, especially when you have like the line of the wires and stuff like that. So it gives you some modesty and some shape. So in addition to the sheer cup lining and the foam and the back band material, I am going to use some wide band elastic just along the bottom of the bustier. I found that makes it the most comfortable. And that's an idea that I had picked up from the diamond bustier from Pinup Girls. I really find that very comfortable, so I want to carry that over into this design. In terms of boning, I have some leftover of this like synthetic whalebone from my Victorian corset. So I'm going to go ahead and use that in my boning for this bustier and just attach it with some white twill tape. And I'm going to try to remember to link all of the materials down in the description box below if you guys are interested. So I'm not going to go into much detail in terms of how I'm making the pattern, just because I've done that already on my channel before, so I can link that video up here. So in terms of like the base bustier, that's going to be stuff I've done before. It shouldn't be too hard, just have to like remember, get that muscle memory again. But what I'm planning on making this really special is that I purchased a bunch of these little butterflies from AliExpress in different shades of like this like ultraviolet blue. My idea is to make it like this flock of blue butterflies is sort of like flying across the bustier once it's finished. So sort of like in a diagonal pattern up through the cups, and it'll look like, you know, I'm walking in a field of butterflies. So I think that is the plan. So everything has now been cut out. I had to do a little bit of troubleshooting while I was doing it, so it took me a little longer than expected. The foam that I wanted to use that matches my skin tone a little bit better, I didn't quite have enough of it to do the cups, and since this is a sheer bra and you're going to see the color, I needed to make sure that whatever foam I used was the same foam across the board so that you didn't see changes in color. So I went to this foam, which doesn't match my skin as well. It's got a little bit too much yellow tone into it. So because I went with this foam, I decided that I was going to do a double layer of all of the sheer white sheer cup lining, because that will help obfuscate a little bit that color difference. I'm hoping make it a little bit more lighter and ethereal. So I cut out 4 of every cup piece, so 2 and 2 on each side, so that I could have a double layer. So that's all of that. So for the band, I did cut 2 of those as well, and then I decided that I wanted to make sure that the boning channels are going to be like sandwiched in between again, so it sort of gives it a more light and ethereal look. It sort of like softens the edges a little bit. So I went ahead and pinned the boning channel on here, and I did again 2 layers of this. So there's this twill tape pinned on both sides of this piece, so this piece is like sandwiched in the middle of it, and then the boning will just come in there, and then I don't have to worry about it. The boning will never be seen, because that's another problem with having the sheerness, is if I just put this on one, if I put the channeling on one side and then slipped the boning in, you'd either be able to see the boning from the outside of the bra or the inside. It also wouldn't have been very comfortable. So I put in 2 layers, and then I just sandwiching in there and pinned it. So what I'm going to do is edge stitch those along here to secure those into place. I'm also going to put some boning channels along the side edges as well. I just don't want to do that until it's been attached to the back band, so it's more complete. And then you can see here I cut them really, really long, and that's because you can see here I cut them really long, and that's because, as I had said, I'm going to use this wide band elastic along the bottom. So I needed to make sure that boning was long enough that it extends down into this waistband as well, because I find that's the most comfortable. If you stop the boning up here, then the issue that I always have is that it will then bend at that point, which makes it less comfortable. I find it's better if you can extend the boning all the way into the waistband. So now that I have all my pieces cut out, I can begin sewing everything together. So first I'm going to start out with edge stitching these channels so I can get them all into place, and then I'll probably add my back band and sandwich it in between the second band piece. That way I can get a nice clean edge when it's finished. So I'm going to do that and come back to you. Okay, so the band is done and I'm really happy with how it's turning out. I love the layer of sheer cup lining over top of the channeling. I think it gives it just enough of that sort of like blur effect. Like, it doesn't look bad on the backside where you see the actual physical twill tape, but I just think this looks a lot better. So I'm happy that I did that. I've also gone ahead and put in the side channels here. It was a little bit tricky to get it, I stuffed one of them in between the two layers of sheer cup lining so that you don't have any twill tape sitting on the actual top of the bra itself. So because this is strapless, I'm going to go ahead and finish the cups separately and make sure the band is fully finished before setting them in. So now I'm just going to put in my 3/8 inch elastic up here and my wide band elastic along the bottom here. So for the wide band, all I'm going to do is just sort of overlap by 1/4 inch. I might sort of like give myself some markings in there. So 1/4 inch, I want to go over top of the boning channels, but making sure that I'm picking up my needle and not sewing through the boning channels, because I want to be able to, slip the bones in there. But the elastic will go over top of the channels and just not sewn through. So quite a lot of progress has been made. I've gone ahead and finished the bottom band completely now. So I have put on my hook and eye closures on the end, and then I've put in my wide elastic and my 3/8 inch elastic up at the top. You'll notice that my boning channels are still a little bit longer than the bra. Eventually I will trim them back and then sew and finish that edge so it's nice and clean, but I can't do that until the bonings are actually in the channel. So I just left them long for now so that I'm worried that if I cut it now, the edge might get kind of like raggedy by the time it's ready to finish. So I want to make sure that I have a nice clean cut edge at that point. So I'm going to leave them long and then cut them right before I'm getting ready to sew. So with the bottom band all done and complete, I can go ahead and set this aside and start working on my cups. For the foam, I'm going to do them just how I do all of my foam, which is butting up the two sides together and then sewing with a zigzag stitch, moving along that curve. And then I will construct the outer layer separately of the sheer cup lining, again doing it in 2 layers. I'm not going to make 2 of them, I'll just stack them up together and sew it together, and that way you'll get a little bit more diffuse look on top of that foam, so it's not as obvious that the color is not a great match for my skin. So I'm going to go ahead and do the cups and finish the upper edge with fold over elastic. Slight change of plans. I was looking at the 2 layers of this onto the foam and I felt like it still was quite a bit different than my skin tone. So what I'm going to do is actually, I have this nutmeg bra tool that I purchased from the TaylorMade shop. So I'm going to do a layer of that and then these 2 layers of sheer cup lining, and then that gets me a color that's a lot more similar, so I don't think it'll be as noticeable on that transition between the foam cups and the non-foamed body. So this will actually be 3 layers. I personally don't mind doing a whole lot of layers of fabric. I really like textile manipulation, so I get exactly the look that I'm going for. This is not the first time that I've mixed several layers of things just to get the right exact shade. So yeah, that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. Cups are almost done and I'm pretty happy how they turned out. I went ahead and edge stitched on this 3/8 inch flat stretchy elastic. So it's kind of like fold over elastic but doesn't have that center fold in it. And I put that over that cross cup seam just because I think that it'll tie in the look of the boning channels in the bottom of the bra. And I didn't love how that connection point was looking, because you have the seam of all of these fabrics as well as that seam on the foam. So that just sort of like cleans stuff up and makes it look a little neater and tidier. So yeah, the last thing I have to do on the cups is just to put my fold over elastic along the upper edge, and then I can go ahead and put it into the bra itself. Okay, so the cups are in and I'm really happy how it's looking. Definitely glad that I put that nutmeg bra tool in there, because I think now it's gonna look almost seamless between the cup and then my actual skin. So really happy with that. So this technique where you finish the band before you put the cups in, I don't use it super often, purely because you have to be really, really accurate with it. I sort of prefer bra making where I have the chance to sort of like true stuff up at the end if it's not quite working exactly. But this one, you have to know that your cup fits exactly in, so that it has that clean finish on the center front and the side over here. So I took my time, I went slow, I walked my pattern before I even started, just so that I knew this was definitely going to fit. And so far so good. So the last sort of steps on the base of the bra before I can start adding all my butterflies is to put in my underwire channeling. So I'll put that in and then slip in all my bones, and I'll come back to you. Okay, the underwire is in. I went ahead and used that 3/8 of an inch stretchy elastic along the wire line as well, because I thought it really cleaned that up nicely. And now I'm just doing the final touches of putting in the boning. So I have the last one to do, so I thought I'd show you how I go about it. So I just eyeball it from the outside, laying it on the channel, and then I'll mark out maybe like 1/4 of an inch from the edge of the garment. And what's nice about this one is this one you can cut with scissors. Craft scissors, obviously, not your fabric scissors. So now I have my plastic piece here, and I just like to, like, not miter, but like cut off the corners just to make them a little bit less sharp, like so. And then I'll take a nail file to the edge just to make sure it's smooth and I don't have anything that's gonna like snag my fabric. And then I like to make sure that I have it oriented correctly. And I slide it in. So now with all the bones in, I can go ahead and trim the edge of these channels just so they're like flush with my wide band elastic, and then I'm going to sew like a satin stitch along the edge just to finish them up. So the plan for this, I'm thinking I'm going to pin them on, position them into place, and then once I like how everything looks, going in with and hand sewing them on. I think that's probably going to be the best bet. So I only have one of this one, which is like the biggest one. So I think it has to be first. I think he's gonna go there. Okay, I think that I am liking that. Clearly I bought way too many butterflies. You probably saw in the sped up thing that I had a lot more on here, and then I thought it just looked too claustrophobic. So I think I'm going to start with this and then try it on to see how I like it, and then decide if I want to add any more. So everything has been sewn on, and I'm very happy with how it looks. I like how each butterfly has like 2 sets of wings, and as you walk they sort of like move in the air, and it has the appearance as if they're like fluttering. I think it looks really cool. So for my first bra back, I'm really happy with how this turned out. So I hope you guys enjoyed following along with me on the process, and I'll see everyone next time. Take care.